The millionaire boss warned, "Follow my rules or walk out." She walked, until he said, "You are staying." Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, completely free, and it is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The contract lay perfectly centered on the polished conference table, its crisp white pages glowing under the cold fluorescent lights. At the head of the table stood Adrian Herℹ, the youngest millionaire CEO in Herℹ Industries history, tall, sharply dressed, and carved from stone. His voice dropped into a quiet command that could freeze steel. "Follow my rules, or walk out." Across from him, Mara Ellis tried to steady her breath. She had been in this office for only 3 weeks as a temporary assistant, but it felt like survival training inside a corporate battlefield. She needed this job. She needed the paycheck to keep her mother's medical bills from burying them alive. But she also needed her dignity, and Adrian had a way of slicing straight through it without even blinking. Her fingers curled around her tote bag. "Then I will walk," she said, her voice trembling but determined. For a moment, the room went entirely silent. Even the air conditioner seemed to pause. Adrian's eyes lifted from the document for the first time, dark and unreadable. Mara turned away before fear could overrule her resolve and started toward the door. Her footsteps echoed through the executive floor, too loud, too honest. She pressed the elevator button, her heart pounding with the terrible satisfaction of choosing herself, even if it cost her everything. Behind her, she heard a chair scrape. Firm steps followed. A shadow appeared beside her. Adrian's voice arrived low, controlled, and far too close. "You are not going anywhere." Mara stiffened. The elevator doors remained shut, almost mocking her. She could feel him looking at her, the way a man studies a decision that will change more than just a work contract. "You did not even let me finish," Adrian said. "If you leave now, you lose the one opportunity that might actually help you." She swallowed, caught between fear, anger, and the raw truth that there was something in his tone she had never heard before. Not arrogance, not dominance, something closer to urgency. But Mara did not turn around, not yet, because she did not trust him, and she definitely did not trust the way her pulse reacted to him. The elevator chimed in the distance, but it was his next sentence that truly stopped her. "I came down here to offer you a different contract, Mara. One that will change everything." Her hand froze above the elevator button. This, she realized, was not the end. It was the beginning. Mara did not turn around right away. She stood frozen in front of the elevator doors, her reflection trembling faintly in the metal surface. She had expected anger from Adrian Herℹ. She had expected punishment, dismissal, coldness. But she had never expected him to follow her, and she definitely had not expected him to offer something that sounded far more complicated than a simple promotion. She finally faced him. "What kind of contract are you talking about, Mr. Herℹ?" Adrian held her gaze without blinking, the kind of look that pinned a person in place, even without touching them. He lifted the folder in his hand, the same polished black leather that every executive recognized as carrying something serious. "A partnership contract," he said. "Temporary, strategic, mutually beneficial." Mara frowned. "I do not understand." "That is because you walked out before I could explain," he replied, his tone still firm but no longer icy. "I need someone to stand beside me at several upcoming events, 5 events to be exact. They are critical for investors, shareholders, and media relations. I need a partner who is adaptable, disciplined, and trustworthy." "And you think that person is me?" she asked quietly. "I know it is you," he answered. The hallway went silent again, except for the faint hum of the air vents. Mara hugged her tote bag to her chest, trying to calm the storm inside. She was a temporary assistant, not someone who belonged in the spotlight of high society or billionaire negotiations. She still lived in a small rented apartment with peeling paint, working double shifts at a cafe before this job saved her. The idea of standing beside a man like Adrian at high-profile events felt like stepping into a world she had no map for. "Why me?" she finally asked, her voice softer but steadier. Adrian exhaled, the slightest shift in posture showing he had expected this question. "Because you are not afraid to tell me no," he said. "Everyone else around me tells me what they think I want to hear. You do not. You challenge me, and that is exactly what I need for this arrangement." "Arrangement?" Mara repeated, tasting the word with caution. "And what exactly would this arrangement require from me?" Adrian opened the folder and turned it toward her. She did not step closer, so he took one step forward, closing the distance but still maintaining a respectful space between them. "There are terms," he said. "Clear terms. You attend events with me. You follow the schedule. You handle conversations with media and investors when needed. In exchange, your compensation will triple, and your mother's medical bills will be covered during the 90-day contract." Her breath caught. The hallway blurred for a moment, the weight of reality settling heavily in her chest. 90 days of stability, 90 days of breathing room, 90 days where her mother could receive proper treatment without fear of being turned away. But then, Adrian flipped to the final page, the one that stopped her heart completely. Item number 3, a line written in clean, unshakable ink. "No emotional involvement between parties." Mara stared at it. "No emotional involvement," she echoed. "You even put that into writing." Adrian's expression did not change. "Boundaries protect both of us. This is a business arrangement, nothing more." For a moment she almost laughed, except nothing about this felt funny. The impossibility, the humility, the sheer imbalance of power. He was a millionaire CEO. She was a temporary assistant with overdue bills. But at the same time, she could not deny the truth. She needed this, badly. Mara closed the folder and looked up at him, searching his face for any sign of deception, any hidden threat, anything that felt unsafe. She found nothing except certainty. "Think carefully, Mara," he said, "but do not make decisions based on fear. Make them based on what you want your life to look like 90 days from now." Her pulse hammered. "Give me until tomorrow." Adrian nodded once. "You have until 9 in the morning." He turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone in the quiet hallway, holding a contract that felt less like paper and more like a door waiting to be opened. Mara barely slept that night. The contract folder lay on her nightstand like a spotlight she could not turn off. She kept hearing Adrian Hale's voice in her mind, steady and relentless. "Make decisions based on what you want your life to look like 90 days from now." 90 days. 90 days that could change everything for her mother. 90 days standing beside a man who made her pulse stumble when he looked at her too directly. By sunrise, exhaustion and clarity merged into one quiet truth. She knew what she had to do. At 8:55 in the morning, Mara stepped into the executive floor again. The polished marble glimmered beneath her shoes, and for a moment she felt out of place in her simple navy dress. Assistants hurried across the hall, carrying tablets and reports, but she moved with purpose, clutching the folder in both hands. Adrian was already in his office, standing near the window with the city unfolding behind him. He turned the moment she entered, as if he had been waiting for her. "You are early," he said. "I made my decision," she replied. The corner of his mouth lifted just slightly. Not a smile, but something close. "And?" Mara placed the folder on his desk. "I will sign." Adrian nodded once, the subtle approval almost warming. "Then we begin immediately." He opened a small drawer and took out a sleek pen, setting it beside the contract. Mara picked it up, the weight of the metal cold against her fingers. She signed her name on each required line, her handwriting steady despite the tremor inside her chest. When she finished, Adrian signed his portion with practiced precision. The moment both signatures touched the page, it felt real, solid, binding. Adrian closed the folder. "You will receive your first briefing after lunch. Our first event is tomorrow evening, a formal charity gala. You will receive wardrobe fittings, etiquette guidance, and media preparation today." Mara blinked. "Today? All of that?" "Yes," Adrian replied. "You will be representing the Hale name. Preparation is essential." A soft knock interrupted them. A woman with silver hair and elegant posture stepped inside, carrying a digital tablet. "This is Margaret," Adrian said. "She is my chief protocol advisor. She will guide you through every detail required for your new role." Margaret gave a warm but assessing smile. "We will start with wardrobe, then posture, then conversational training." "You will do well, Miss Ellis." Mara followed her through the corridor into a private suite filled with racks of dresses, mirrors, and soft light. The space looked like something from a magazine, not a place someone like her should ever step into. Margaret measured her quickly and professionally. "You have naturally graceful shoulders," Margaret said. "Keep them relaxed. High-profile events demand confidence, not perfection. People respond to sincerity." The words surprised Mara. Adrian had chosen someone unexpectedly kind to shape her into this temporary partner. Piece by piece, dress by dress, instruction by instruction, she felt the world shifting beneath her feet. Hours later, when she returned to Adrian's office for the briefing, he studied her with a quiet intensity. She wore a simple, fitted blazer, her posture straighter, her steps more composed. "You look prepared," he said. "I hope so," she answered. But her voice did not shake this time. He handed her a sleek binder. "Tomorrow's event is important. Investors will expect you to stand beside me, not behind me. You are to walk with confidence. Speak only when necessary. If anyone approaches you, I will handle it." Mara met his eyes, feeling a strange blend of nerves and determination. "I will not let you down." Adrian hesitated for half a second, an almost imperceptible pause. "I know," he said quietly. And for the first time, Mara wondered if the contract she had just signed would truly remain a matter of rules, or if something far more complicated had already begun. The next evening arrived faster than Mara expected. The charity gala was held at the Grand Lexington Hotel, a place she had only ever seen in magazines. Crystal chandeliers glittered across the ceiling, and the marble floors reflected every movement like a mirror. Luxury filled the air the same way oxygen did, effortless for everyone except her. In the private preparation suite, Margaret fastened the last clasp on Mara's evening gown. The fabric swept the floor in a deep navy satin that shimmered each time she breathed. It was stunning, elegant, and far beyond anything she had ever worn in her life. "You will walk in with Mr. Herℹ," Margaret instructed gently. "You will keep your shoulders relaxed, chin lifted, and do not rush. Let him set the pace." Mara nodded, her pulse drumming beneath the delicate neckline. "I will try." "You will do more than try," Margaret replied. "You will succeed." A soft knock sounded on the door. When it opened, Adrian stepped inside. For 1 second, everything went silent. He wore a tailored black suit that fit him like it had been built for him alone. His gaze swept over Mara from head to toe, not with impropriety, not with ownership, but with something quieter, something she could not quite name. "You look prepared," he said. The same words as before, but something in his tone had shifted. "Thank you," Mara answered, trying to steady herself. He offered his arm. "Shall we?" She placed her hand lightly on his sleeve, and they walked together into the grand hall. The moment they appeared, heads turned. Flashes burst from the sides of the room as photographers captured every step. It was overwhelming, a wave of attention that made her breath catch. But Adrian leaned slightly closer and spoke just loud enough for her to hear. "Match my breathing, slow and steady." She did, and the world steadied with it. They moved through the crowd as one unit, and for a moment she forgot this was a contract. She forgot the rules. She forgot the no emotional involvement clause printed in bold ink. Guests stopped to greet Adrian, addressing him with eager tones. Investors, board members, executives. Each time he introduced Mara with calm confidence. "This is Mara Ellis. She is my partner for the evening." Partner, not assistant. Not temporary hire. Partner. It struck her harder than she expected, but the ease of the moment did not last long. As they approached the center of the ballroom, a woman in a glittering silver dress stepped into their path. Her smile was sharp, and her eyes lingered on Mara with pointed curiosity. "Adrian," she purred, "I see you have brought someone new." "This is Mara," Adrian said, maintaining his polite composure. The woman tilted her head. "And what is she? Another assistant? Another experiment? You do cycle through them." The words sliced through the air. Mara felt her cheeks warm, but before she could speak, Adrian's voice cut through the tension, steady and unmistakably protective. "She is with me," he said. "That is all anyone here needs to know." The woman blinked, surprised by his firmness, and then drifted away with a forced smile. Mara exhaled slowly. "Thank you." "I told you," Adrian replied. "I will handle it." But the moment unsettled her. These were the kinds of people she would face throughout the contract. People who looked at her and saw someone who did not belong. Still, as the evening continued, Mara found her footing. She answered brief questions, followed Margaret's training, and kept close to Adrian during the more intense conversations. At one point, a small group of donors surrounded them, and for a moment, she felt overwhelmed again. But when Adrian stepped slightly behind her to offer support without drawing attention, she regained her composure. Hours passed. The crowd grew louder, the lights grew warmer, and yet, with every passing minute, she felt herself stepping deeper into a world she had never imagined entering. When the final speech ended and the guests began to disperse, Mara finally allowed herself to exhale. She stepped aside near a tall window overlooking the city, letting the cool glass soothe her palm. Adrian approached quietly. "You handled yourself well." "I survived," she said with a small breath. "You did more than survive," he replied. "You carried yourself with grace." For a moment they stood in silence, the city lights stretching below them like a field of stars. Then Adrian spoke again, softer this time. "This is only the beginning, Mara." She looked up at him, unsure if the shiver in her chest came from nerves, or from the possibility that the contract was no longer just ink on paper. It was becoming something that felt dangerously real. The morning after the gala, Herℹ Industries hummed with its usual rhythm, but for Mara, everything felt different. The night lingered in her thoughts like a soft echo. The lights, the whispers, the unexpected moments when Adrian stood just slightly closer, as if shielding her from a world she had never belonged to. She tried to shake it off as she walked toward his office, but her heartbeat refused to settle. Margaret met her at the door. "Mr. Herℹ is already inside. He asked for you." Mara took a steadying breath and stepped in. Adrian stood by the conference table, reviewing a series of documents. When he looked up, there was a new kind of intensity in his eyes. Not harsh, not cold. Focused. "We need to go over last night," he said. Mara nodded, unsure whether this would be praise or criticism. He gestured for her to sit. "The board called me early this morning. Several members made comments about the impression you made. They were surprisingly positive." "Surprisingly?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "It is not a reflection of you," he clarified. "It is a reflection of them. They do not open their expectations to anyone outside their circle. Yet, you managed to impress them." The quiet pride in his voice startled her. She had been expecting a stern lecture, not this measured approval. Adrian continued. "Our next event is a corporate dinner with international partners. It will require more interaction, more eyes will be on you, and more critics." Mara exhaled slowly. "I understand." He studied her for a moment, then closed the folder. "I want to show you something before we begin today's training." He motioned for her to follow him out of the office and down the hall to a private elevator. They rode to the top floor, a level she had never seen before. When the doors opened, the space felt different from the sharp, demanding energy of the corporate floors. This level was quiet, warmer, more personal. Adrian led her into a private conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. On the table were renderings, architectural sketches, and philanthropic proposals. "This," he said, resting a hand lightly on the table, "is what last night contributed to. The charity program we are launching next quarter. Scholarships, housing support, medical grants. The gala you attended last night funds all of this." Mara moved closer, scanning the sketches. "I had no idea," she whispered. "You were not supposed to," he replied. "This is not something I broadcast. It is something I do because it matters." She looked up at him, startled by the honesty in his voice. "You have built something meaningful," she said quietly. Adrian held her gaze. "So have you. Last night you helped secure 3 additional donors. You carried yourself with dignity. You represented this company well. I thought you should know the impact you made." Mara felt her breath catch, not from flattery but from weight, real weight, because the contract no longer felt like a performance. It felt like responsibility. A soft knock interrupted their moment. Margaret appeared again, her tone brisk but respectful. "Mr. Herℹ, the media training room is ready." Adrian nodded. "We will be there shortly." When Margaret left, he turned back to Mara. "I chose you for this contract for a reason. You do not pretend. You do not flatter. You do not crumble under pressure. That is rare." She felt a warmth rise in her chest, the the kind that had nothing to do with the view or the praise. But she reminded herself of the clause. Item number 3, no emotional involvement. She straightened. I will keep doing my best, that is all I can promise. Adrian stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. His voice dropped slightly, lower, steadier. That is more than enough. For a moment, neither of them moved. The city stretched out beneath them, a silent witness to something shifting, something neither contract nor rule could contain forever. Then Adrian stepped back, composed again. Let us begin. There is much to prepare. Mara followed him toward the training room, aware of something new settling under her skin. A feeling she was not supposed to have. A feeling the contract forbade. And yet, it was already growing. The following week moved faster than Mara expected. Every morning began with training sessions, etiquette drills, and briefing documents. Every afternoon was spent shadowing Adrian through meetings, where the energy shifted the moment he entered a room. And every evening ended with her reviewing pages of talking points until her eyes blurred. But beneath the pressure and preparation, something else lingered. A quiet awareness, a subtle shift, a warmth she tried to ignore each time Adrian looked at her just a moment too long. By Friday afternoon, as they prepared for the high-profile corporate dinner, that shift became impossible to ignore. Margaret guided Mara through the final steps of the evening routine, adjusting the collar of her suit jacket. Tonight will be more conversational than the gala. Partners will expect insight, not silence. Yes, I am ready, Mara said, though her stomach tightened with nerves. You will do well, Margaret replied, patting her arm. Mr. Hale believes in you. That should tell you something. Mara tried to smile, but those words pressed deeper than Margaret realized, because she did not know what it meant when a man like Adrian believed in her, and she was afraid to guess. Adrian stepped into the room a moment later. He wore a charcoal suit and carried the calm confidence of someone used to commanding global attention. But when his eyes landed on Mara, his expression softened almost imperceptibly. Are you prepared? He asked. Mara nodded. As prepared as I can be. He studied her for a long moment. If at any point you feel overwhelmed tonight, step beside me. Not behind me, beside me. Understood? Yes, she said quietly. They left for the dinner together, descending through the lobby where guests and employees openly stared. Some recognized Adrian immediately. Others whispered when they saw Mara at his side. She kept her chin steady, breathing the way he taught her. The corporate dinner was held in a private ballroom downtown. Long tables gleamed beneath soft amber lights, and servers moved gracefully between executives from around the world. Conversations filled the air with terms she had only recently learned. Partnerships, mergers, expansions. Mara followed Adrian through the room, meeting each introduction with careful confidence. She answered questions with clarity, deflected invasive comments with tact, and even managed to make a few executives laugh. With every interaction, Adrian stayed close, subtle, steady, protective in a way that went beyond professionalism. Near the end of the evening, one of the international partners leaned in a little too closely. Mr. Hale has excellent judgment, he said, eyeing Mara openly. You are certainly more impressive than his last date. Mara stiffened, unsure how to respond. Before she could speak, Adrian stepped forward with a tone that froze the space between them. She is not a date, he said. She is my partner for these events, and she is not someone you should speak to that way. The man blinked, embarrassed, and quickly excused himself. When he walked away, Mara whispered, You did not have to defend me. Yes, I did, Adrian replied. You are under my protection during this contract. That includes your dignity. Something inside her shifted at those words. As the dinner ended and guests began to depart, Adrian walked Mara outside to the balcony overlooking the city. The night breeze brushed gently against the railing, carrying the glow of streetlights far below. You handled yourself well, he said, better than many seasoned consultants. Thank you, she replied, her pulse still quick from the confrontation earlier. You did not crumble, he continued. You stayed focused, controlled. You have a presence that commands respect. Mara looked down at the city lights. I never thought I would be standing in places like this. Adrian's voice softened. You earned your place here, Mara. Do not forget that. She felt her breath catch again. This man, who could reduce an entire boardroom to silence, spoke to her with a sincerity she did not know how to absorb. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Adrian stepped closer, stopping just short of her shoulder. There will be more events, more scrutiny, more moments like tonight, but you will not face them alone. Heat spread through her chest, unwelcome and undeniable. The contract forbade emotional involvement, but reality was beginning to ignore the rules inked on page 3. And as they left the balcony together, Mara realized something dangerous. She was no longer pretending. The following days unfolded in a rhythm that felt almost unreal to Mara. Training, events, preparation, public appearances. She began to move through the world alongside Adrian as if she had always been meant to stand beside him. But beneath the polished surface, pressure brewed. Whispers in hallways grew louder. Eyes lingered longer, and not all of them were friendly. By the time the next major event arrived, Mara sensed something shifting in the atmosphere of Herℹ Industries. Conversations silenced when she walked past. Invitations she should have received never reached her inbox. Even a few executives watched her not with curiosity, but with calculation. And Mara did not realize the storm gathering until it finally broke. On Thursday afternoon, she stepped into the executive floor, carrying updated briefing notes. As she approached Adrian's office, the door was slightly ajar, and raised voices echoed from inside. A woman's voice spoke sharply. "You cannot keep parading her around, Adrian. The board is questioning you. Investors are questioning you." Mara froze. It was Camille Hartwell, a powerful board member known for her influence and her direct involvement in several of the company's most important moves. She had never acknowledged Mara beyond a polite nod. Now her voice carried a jagged edge. "She is a temporary assistant," Camille continued, "a contract hire, and the rumors are spreading faster than your press team can contain." Adrian's voice answered, low but firm. "This is none of your concern." "It becomes my concern when your decisions jeopardize the company," Camille snapped. "Bringing her to high-profile events, placing her in positions she is not qualified for, allowing the media to speculate about her role, this is reckless." Mara's pulse picked up. She should leave. She knew she should not be listening, but her feet refused to move. Camille's voice sharpened even more. "And do not pretend this is just professional. Everyone sees the way you look at her." Silence fell inside the office. A long, heavy silence. Then Adrian spoke, each word controlled. "My personal boundaries are not yours to govern." "Your personal boundaries are affecting your judgment," Camille said, "and the board will not tolerate it. If you continue this arrangement, we will have no choice but to intervene." Mara felt the words land like blows. Camille pressed on. "End it, Adrian. End the contract. Send her away before this escalates." Mara did not wait to hear his answer. She stepped back from the door, her heartbeat drowning out the hallway noise. She walked to the far corner near the large window and pressed her hand against the cool glass, trying to steady her breathing. End the contract. Send her away. She had known this world would not welcome her, but she had not imagined they would try to force her out. A moment later, the office door opened, and Camille stepped out. Her gaze flicked briefly toward Mara, cool and unreadable, before she strode down the hallway. Adrian appeared in the doorway. He spotted Mara instantly, his expression softening into something she could not interpret. "How long have you been standing there?" he asked quietly. "Long enough," she replied, her voice thin. He stepped closer. "Mara, listen to me." "You should not defend me to your board," she said quickly. "It will only make things worse. I do not answer to them about this." "But you should," she whispered. "This is your company, your reputation. I am temporary. I am replaceable." His jaw tightened, frustration flickering across his face. "Do not say that." "It is true," she insisted. "I have always known it." The office floor felt suddenly too large, too bright, too cold. Adrian stepped closer again, slowing his pace as if he feared pushing her too far. "Mara, I will handle this." "They want you to end the contract," she said, her voice barely above a breath. "And maybe they are right." His chest rose with a tight inhale. "I am not ending anything." But Mara looked away, unable to hold his gaze, because the part that frightened her most was not Camille's threat, Not the rumors, not the board. It was the truth she could no longer deny. She was not supposed to feel anything for him. Yet every moment near him made the rule on page 3 feel more impossible to follow, and the cost of breaking it might destroy them both. Something had to give, and soon it would. For the rest of the day, Mara kept her distance. She completed every task on her schedule, attended every briefing, and reviewed every document, but her focus drifted again and again to the conversation she overheard. Camille's words replayed in her mind like a warning she could not silence. End the contract. Send her away. By late afternoon, Margaret noticed the tension in Mara's shoulders and paused during their media rehearsal. "You are distracted," she said kindly. "I am fine," Mara replied, but the tremor in her voice said otherwise. Margaret held her gaze a moment longer, then simply nodded. "If you need a moment to breathe, take it. Even strong people need air." Mara appreciated the gentleness, yet she knew that no amount of air could help her outrun the truth. She had stepped into a world that was willing to reject her the moment she became inconvenient. As evening approached, Adrian requested her presence in his office. Mara hesitated at the door, gathering whatever remained of her composure before stepping inside. He stood near the window again, the city lights flickering across his expression. When he turned toward her, his voice softened in a way that made her heart tighten. "We need to talk about what you heard," he said. Mara nodded, though the words burned. "Camille is wrong," Adrian continued. "She sees everything through the lens of power and risk. She does not see people. She does not see you." "Maybe she does," Mara whispered. "Maybe she sees exactly what the rest of the world sees. A temporary assistant playing a role she does not belong in." "You belong exactly where you are," Adrian replied, stepping forward. "You have earned that." Mara looked at him, struggling to keep her voice steady. "But the contract says there cannot be emotional involvement, and that rule is already strained." Silence pressed between them. It was the first time either of them acknowledged what had been building in the quiet moments, after the gala, on the balcony, during long hours of preparation, unspoken but unmistakable. Adrian took another step toward her. "The rule exists to protect you from power imbalance. That is all. It does not seem to be protecting anyone right now," Mara said, her eyes stinging. He paused, almost as if the weight of her words landed in a place he rarely allowed anyone to reach. "Mara, listen to me. I will not let a board member decide how I run my life or how I treat the people I value." "The people you value," she repeated, the words soft but unsure. "I do not know what that means." Adrian exhaled slowly. "It means you are not just a contract partner. You are not replaceable. I will not end the contract, no matter what Camille says." Her heart ached at the sincerity in his voice, but fear pressed in just as sharply. "And what about your position, the company, your reputation? All of that is at risk because of me. I am willing to take that risk." She shook her head. "You should not be." Adrian looked at her for a long moment, something unguarded flickering in his expression, something that went far beyond professionalism. "You are not the problem, Mara. The problem is that people are threatened when they cannot control a narrative. But I can counter that." "How?" she asked. "By focusing on what we came here to build," he said. "Together. A united front, a consistent message, an absolute clarity that you are not a liability." She hesitated, torn between the comfort of his confidence and the sharp edge of her own doubt. "What if the board pushes harder?" she asked quietly. "Then they will have to push through me," Adrian replied. The certainty in his voice sent a shiver through her. She stepped back instinctively, overwhelmed by the intensity between them. "Adrian," she said softly, "if this continues, it will become more than just strategy, and that is not what the contract was meant for." His eyes held hers, steady and unyielding. Some things cannot be contained by a contract. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air thickened with everything they could not say, and everything they had been trying to ignore. Then Adrian broke the silence, his voice lower, quieter. "Mara, you are not alone in this, and you never will be." Her throat tightened. Because part of her— And as Mara left the office, she realized the truth. This was no longer a performance. This was the edge of heartbreak, or something far more dangerous. The tension that had been quietly building finally reached its breaking point the next morning. Mara arrived early, hoping to ground herself before facing another demanding day. But the moment she stepped inside the building, she sensed something was wrong. Assistants whispered in corners, executives moved with unusual urgency, and on every phone screen she caught a glimpse of the same headline: a leaked contract. Her contract. Her heart froze. The headline displayed her name beside Adrian's, paired with speculative commentary that cut deeper than any rumor before. Words like arrangement, manufactured partner, and questionable ethics attached themselves to her image, painting her as a manipulative opportunist rather than a woman trying to survive. Her hands trembled as she walked toward the elevator. She did not need to guess who had leaked the document. The timing was too precise, too deliberate. Camille had decided to strike first. When she reached the executive floor, Adrian was already waiting by the window, his jaw tight, his expression storm dark. He turned toward her, and the anger in his voice was not directed at her. "I just saw it," she whispered. "I will handle this," he said sharply. The board crossed a line. They had no right. "It does not matter," she said, though her voice shook. "The damage is done." "It does matter," Adrian replied, stepping closer. "I will call a press conference. I will correct the narrative. I will." "Do not fight for me," Mara said, forcing strength into her words. "This is exactly what they want. They want to drag you into a scandal so they can call you unfit to lead." Adrian paused, breathing hard, his frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "And what do you want me to do? Turn my back? Pretend you have not stood by me at every event? Pretend you have not supported everything this company is building?" "This is not about the company anymore," Mara whispered. "This is about us. And right now, we are hurting each other just by standing in the same room." He closed the distance between them, his voice low and earnest. "I will not lose you because of their fear. And I will not let you destroy your career because of me," she replied. Silence pressed between them, thick and fragile. Mara lifted her chin, forcing the words out even as her heart cracked. "I am ending the contract." Adrian's breath caught. "No, you are not." "I have to," she said gently. "This will only escalate, and I cannot be the reason your company fractures. You built your life on discipline and purpose. I will not be the one who takes that from you." He stood perfectly still, the weight of her decision sinking into him like iron. For the first time since she met him, Adrian Hale looked unguarded, human, hurting. "Mara," he said softly, "you are not ruining my life. You are the first part of it that has felt real in a very long time." The words nearly undid her, but she forced herself to step back because love, real love, sometimes meant choosing the harder path. "I will finish my responsibilities for the rest of the week," she said. "After that, I will leave quietly." Adrian closed his eyes briefly, as if steadying himself, then opened them with a resolve that both frightened and comforted her. "If you walk away now, it will not be because I wanted you to." "I know," she whispered, "but sometimes wanting is not enough." She turned toward the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. Adrian watched her go, his expression carved with something fierce and unspoken. Just before she exited, he said one last thing, his voice steady but breaking at the edges. "I will fix this. And when I do, I hope you will let me find you." Mara paused, her hand on the door. "If the world becomes quiet enough for us," she said softly, "I will not hide." Then she walked away, leaving behind the contract, the rumors, the company, and the man who had become far more than a temporary arrangement. As the elevator doors closed, Mara felt her heart ache with both loss and hope. This was not the end. It was a pause, a promise waiting for its moment. And somewhere high above the city, Adrian Hale stood alone, already preparing to fight not for a contract, but for the woman who had rewritten every rule he ever lived by.